Typecast Heroes. My name is Amanda Fogelson.
And I'm Jessie Miller, and today we are continuing our series on the cognitive functions. So this series serves as a teaser for our podcast that should be coming out this summer, where we will cover our research that we've been conducting over the past several months. So remember, for that research to be revealed, we do need 100 members of each type to come forward and be interviewed. Super aggressive. Super aggressive. Please come and be interviewed by us. Remember, the only requirements is that you be over 18. We do have, as of today, 610 participants already in 63 different countries. So all 6 out of 7 continents are represented. 6 out of 7. I can speak. Cool. All right, so our last set of videos covered the results of the Myers-Briggs test. So we covered I versus E, S versus N, T versus F, and the J versus P dichotomies. And they gave you a code, a 4-letter code, which discussed the order of your cognitive functions. So remember, the cognitive functions are the forces in your brain that you use to perceive information and make decisions. So today we are going to be continuing this part of perceiving information, which is introverted sensing and extroverted intuition. So remember, people spend a lot of time arguing about how Carl Jung was incredibly vague and abstract, and of course, yes, he was. However, the reason that we give any of this boundaries at all is because it's important to have language to discuss the things that are going on in your brain so that you can take ownership, learn to love it, and discuss the implications for systemic change.
Our last video was all about extroverted intuition, which is big N, little e in all of our posts. This video is all about introverted sensing. So big S, little I. Reminder that, again, you guys will hear us say that this particular type or users of SI tend to, or they sometimes will, a lot of these things you guys might relate to, especially if you have SI anywhere in your stack. But in this particular instance, we are talking about SI users, people who have it as their first or second function, which is going to be their first perceiving function. Those types that use those that we're talking about in this video would be ISTJ, ISFJ, ESFJ, and ESTJ.
In our last video, we covered extroverted intuition and how it's on the axis with introverted sensing. And we talked about how extroverted intuition kind of doesn't even recognize itself. It just runs around in the world exploring new things, and it's all about discovery and change and newness. And then when it encounters an object that triggers introverted sensing, it's like, oh, that's me, I recognize you. So introverted sensing obviously is the other side of that axis. So for these people who lead with this function, they have a stored data bank of all of the things that they've experienced, all of the things that they've learned, things that they've seen, their perceptions of the world in their mind. So the way that this axis works is they go throughout life, and when they picture or experience anything, they run it through that filter of all the things that they experienced. Now the extroverted intuition comes into play because they use it to project it forward onto the item that they are currently experiencing. So if they're looking at a flower, they're not really seeing that flower. They are seeing it through the lens of all of the things that they've experienced and all of the memories and all of the emotions that they have with that flower, and the extroverted intuition is projecting it onto that object. And that's how that axis works. In our last video, we talked about extroverted intuition and how it's on an axis with introverted sensing. So just a reminder, extroverted intuition is when you look at an object and you don't really see the object as it is. You see the object as it could be. So we gave an example in one of our first videos, S versus N, that you look at a packing box and you don't see it as a box, but you are projecting all of these crafts you can make with the box. So
the possibilities of what the box could be or could look like.
And that's how extroverted intuition goes throughout life. So because of that, because it tends to look at the world not as it is, but as it could be, it craves newness, new experiences, new sensations, all novelty, right? So introverted sensing then is that flipped version of that.
It's the option, or the opposite. So you've got NE, which is the one that's wanting the newness and go, 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 and is constantly on the move. And then you've got SI, which kind of grounds NE and helps the focus, helps the your memory, your history, all of that stuff is kind of stored within SI. So here what we're talking about is SI being the lead and NE being its opposite.
I do want to cover a couple clarifications here about some misconceptions about what introverted sensing is and how it's often presented in the MBTI community. Often it's presented just as routine, as memory, and as tradition, or even sometimes it's associated with certain political parties.
Or faith, religion.
Right. It's none of that. What it is, why I can explain why it's construed as those things. People who have introverted sensing as their lead function, they have already experienced, so everything they do is things that they have already established works for them. So they've already gone through this system and they're like, that doesn't work for me, so I choose this. So I'm going to keep doing this because this works for me. Versus an NI user like myself who makes the same mistake 15 times in a row because I don't ever learn from them because I have really bad memory. So it looks like they are just stuck in a routine or they're stuck in traditions and they're just kind of stuck there. But in reality, it's because they've already filtered through things that don't work for them. And they know for sure they have a very strong sense of identity of what works and what doesn't. And that's why introverted sensing tends to be misconstrued in that way.
So my mom is a SI user and our introverted sensing user, and she's an ISFJ. And one thing that is super important to her are holidays. However, I feel like we know a few ISFJs who, when it comes to holidays, they're all about how they want their holiday to look. It's just supposed to be this way because it's always been this way. This is how it needs to be. And it can look like that. But then using my mom as an example, for her identity almost came from her raising us. She was a stay-at-home mom, and everything growing up was about us. It was never, ever, ever about her. So taking that spin, taking her experience and everything that her life was based on for, 20-something years, now when it comes to holidays, she is still just the same, but it's all about us still. So now she's got 2 daughters. She's got me and my sister. We both have babies and children. And instead of it being all about her and how the holidays should look and all that stuff, she still will change everything on every single holiday to appease us and make our lives easier. And it's just what works for her and it's what makes sense. And so it's so interesting. We were actually just talking about this before the video that SI users probably more than anyone else will look very different from each other, like one ISFJ versus another, because it's all about their own experience. So like we personally know people who are ISFJs, and when we look at them, we'd be like, they're extremely different people. Mm-hmm. Like you would never know if you didn't know the cognitive functions, you would never be able to tell these 2 people were the same type, but it's just because of their own experiences and how they portray that to the world.
Mm-hmm. So as we said, and as Amanda mentioned, there are 4 types that use this mechanism. So 2 of them are introverts and 2 of them are extroverts. And so as we discussed, introverts and extroverts use these perceiving functions very differently, because if you are an introverted person who uses introverted sensing, mm-hmm. that's your lead function. So it's your dominant function and it's going to completely change. Now, if you're an extrovert who uses introverted
mm-hmm.
Introverted sensing, it is going to be presented differently in that instance as well. So we're going to run through those examples really quickly. So for an introvert who uses introverted sensing, that would be ISTJ and ISFJ. They are often probably going to feel very detached from reality because they spend a lot of time perceiving information kind of on a delay. Because as they're looking at objects, they're not really seeing the objects. They're filtering it through all of their own past experiences. So they tend to get a reputation for being kind of in their head, for being kind of quiet, for thinking about things often. Now, this is way more of a stereotype with ISTJs mm-hmm. than ISFJs, because ISFJs they have extroverted feeling as their second. So they are very focused on people's feelings and emotions, and they tend to be a little more...
You're going to react a little bit quicker if you're so worried about someone who's like right in front of you and taking that information rather than thinking and kind of being in your own head, I guess, which is more towards the ISTJs.
So ISTJs are focused very much on affective mm-hmm. systems. They're focused on logical systems. They're focused on data. So typically, and they can be very strong leaders. They can be very good at making systems that work very, very well because they've already worked through everything that doesn't, and they will remember when the ENTP can't. They'll remember that system, we tried that last year and it didn't work. So this brand new idea that you're trying, we already tried it and it won't work. So they have that gift to bring. However, because they are so much in their head, they can feel like they've got the separation from reality, and to people who look at them, it seems like they're not really fully there all of the time because introverted sensing has kind of like a glass in front of them. So this is the reason that you teach introverted sensing to people who, like, this is the reason that this term matters.
Yeah.
Introverted sensing matters because people who use this as their lead function, you guys have been given a beautiful freaking gift. You can remember the things that you've gone from. You remember all of the lessons that you've learned. You know the things that you've experienced that
you actually learn from your mistakes.
Right? You've learned from your mistakes. You've learned what makes a society great. You've learned how to uphold good things in society. You don't have to try new things all the time. I had an ISTJ tell me once, if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? Which is just common sense, I think. It's very
Which is
grounded.
the complete opposite from anyone who uses any.
Yes.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
That is the thing. To society, my advice to society is they need to listen, because ISTJs and ISFJs all have unique experiences. Like Amanda mentioned, they are all very different because of the experiences that they've gone through. And unlike NI users, or any users to an extent, ISTJs and ISFJs actually remember them. So they have a lot to teach people. So I appreciate ISFJs, I appreciate ISTJs, because they just want to make the world a better place. They want to make good memories for the people that they love. They want to make the best systems that they can, the best schools that they can. And I understand that you just want to make all of the experiences as best as you can, and that all of your kids, all of your intuitive little bratty kids who think they know everything, just need to shut up and respect that. So now we're going to move on to the extroverts who use introverted sensing. And this is a little different because these extroverts are some of the bridge types, because they have introverted sensing and extroverted intuition in their middle. So they are closer to being both a sensor and an intuitive. So they're a little different than the introverts who use introverted sensing.
So, and just to remember, because this is an introverted function, the introverts will have it as their number one function in their cognitive stack. And the extroverts will have it as their second function in their cognitive stack.
Right. So ESTJs, they lead with TE. So that means that they are very action focused. They want to make everything efficient. They want to put all of the logical data outward into the world. They want to crowdsource all of the facts, and none of the facts are theirs. They're not going to get offended if you tell them their idea is stupid. They're just going to be like, this is what works. This is efficient. This is the system. They are very out there in the world. So the way that introverted sensing feeds that is they already know what they've tried in the past. And so as they go through time, they become better and better at developing systems that work. So ESTJs are literally the backbones to any mechanical industry, or any industry really, ever. Because as they go through time, they get better and better at understanding what just doesn't work, because their SI stores it. But they are very action-oriented. And then their NE in their third place explores new things that could possibly work. For ESFJs, it works very similar. Because they lead with extroverted feeling, they're very people-focused. At least they have a tendency to be very people-focused. So they focus on people's needs, the beliefs, the morals, and the values of the people around them. So the way that their SI works is very similar to the ESTJs. It keeps a memory bank of what the people around them like, what they don't like, what they experience, and it serves to fuel that extroverted feeling.
These are the people who will, like, remember your favorite movie that you mentioned one time 5 years ago and get it for you for your birthday.
Your favorite color.
Because they'll remember your birthday.
ESFJ... They tend to be. Remember,
yes,
any person can be anything.
All of you can remember birthdays. Kudos to you. I'm not one of you. But, yes.
So, because they are very action-driven, though, and because they do have a tendency to want to do all of the things all of the time, sometimes when they do have something very serious to say about something that they've experienced in the past, people don't really want to listen to them because they tend to be very action-oriented. Or if a ESTJ or ESFJ wants to step back and be kind of introspective, the ones that I've talked to have said that they kind of have a pushback by that because people don't really know what to do with that. They don't know what to do when an extrovert wants to introvert. So this is my advice to society. Society, first off, let them reflect, because the better that their introverted sensing is, the better the action is that's going to drive it. Mm-hmm. So the better systems we'll have and the better communities we'll have that are driven by the ESFJs. And then also you need to just listen to what they say, because again, their memory is better than yours. End of story. They remember things better than you. They've got lessons that they've learned that they can apply to life, and they've got some wisdom to share. So just listen.
SI is the little angel on my shoulder. It's, you know, when you have like the little devil and the little angel, and I just want to have fun. SI is the little angel on my shoulder that's like, hey, hold up, wait a minute. That's probably a bad idea.
Because remember what you did last time?
Yeah. Remember what happened
for you?
Yeah. So let's take like getting drunk, for instance. You remember last time this happened and you were puking the next day? Yeah, don't do it again. But my NE is like, but... And my SI is like, no.
Yeah, and I don't have SI, so that never happens.
She has SI.
I do.
She has SI.
Somewhere in there. It lives in a box.
But that is it. It's that my SI is, it helps me function. I literally cannot function without it. At the same time, though, it is that, it, for me personally, it is the function that makes me be responsible. Mm-hmm. And along with my TI, but even my TI is.
And why does it make you be responsible? Because it makes you remember
all of the. Honestly, makes me remember the outcomes of the decisions I'm making.
Okay, there you go. I just want to be clear.
Yes.
So it's not just so it's not that having SI makes you responsible.
No.
It's that SI forces you to remember all the times you screwed up.
Mm-hmm. So like, again, NE might be able to think of all these other possibilities, and I'll be like, okay, maybe it's different this time, and I could go for this one, and this could happen this time. But my SI will be like, but do you remember you thought that last time too, and that's not what happened.
It's like when your ex texts you, and you like really want to text him back.
Yep.
And if you have SI, it's like, oh, but remember the last time you texted him back, and that didn't work out for you?
Maybe that's why I don't care about people once I've let them go. Like, I literally drop people like flies.
Okay, so at the end of the day, the most important message that you need to take away is that you have the proper language to discuss these things so that you can explain what's going on in your brain to the people that love you and to yourself, and we can discuss the bigger systemic implications. I can speak. And it's important just to love yourself, because being human is hard, and this makes it a little bit easier.
All right, so you guys already know about the project, and this is normally where we plug all that. We need people to interview with us. All that's still true. We still need more people. However, like Jessie said in the beginning, we are at 610, which is amazing. But at the end of the day, we want to be at 1,600. So we still need more of you. All that being said, I will say that we've had so many people contact us in the past few weeks, and which has been amazing, and it's been so fun, and honestly just mind-blowing to watch and to be part of. But there's not been one ENTP to like reach out. So I would love to talk to more ENTPs. If any of you identify as an ENTP, come talk to me. And that's about it.
Yes. Thank you for watching Typecast Heroes.
Toodles. It's my new thing.
Bye.
Toodles.
She won't remember next time.
I said this last time. Have SI. Yes, you don't remember. This is what it looks like. This is having a little bit of SI. This is having almost no SI.
None.
You're welcome. See, I function. Bye.
Bye.
Let's gather around the type fire and sing our type fire song. Our MBTITYPOLOGY song. And if you feel uncomfortable, then know there's nothing wrong.